Good morning, everybody. Welcome to SCOPA. My name is Ferland Christians. I'm chairperson of SCOPA. With me is Mr. Dustin Davids, very capable procedural officer. I'm going to give the members an opportunity to introduce themselves, and then I'll ask the Minister Department to introduce themselves. Over to you, members, for introductions. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair, and good morning to everybody here. I'm Benedicta van Minnen, a member of this committee.
Good morning, Chair, and to everyone here. I'm Leon van Wyk. I'm a member of this committee.
Good morning, Chair, and good morning, the executive, members of the executive, and officials. My name is Benson Renzo, a member of Mobility Standing Committee. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm a French Mbombo, member of the committee. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Pat Leck. I'm a member of this committee. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Peter Johnson, permanent member of SCOPA.
Thank you very much. I think that's all the members. Can I just give the Minister and the Department opportunity to introduce themselves? Thank you very much.
I said I'll get that the weekend, inshallah.
Good morning, Chair.
Just one minute, one moment, Minister. Mr. Davids, your microphone, please. Mute. Thank you. Minister, over to you.
Good morning, Chairperson. Good morning, honorable members, and to the officials. My name is Isaac Seleko, Minister of Mobility. Good morning.
HOD and the officials can introduce themselves. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Chairperson. My name is Hamida Fakira. I'm the newly appointed HOD for the WCMD. Thank you.
Good morning, members. Good morning, Minister, committee members, and officials. Dear Webinar, I'm joined by quite a few of our key members in the boardroom, so I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves.
Warm greetings, Minister, members. My name is Bernie McMahon, Acting Chief Director, Regulation.
Morning, Chair, Minister, members. Willie van der Merwe, I'm the Acting Chief Director, Traffic Management.
Morning, Chair and members. Chief Jones, Acting Deputy Director, Management Accounting.
Good morning, Chairperson, Minister, HOD and members. Shobha Murthy, Supply Chain Management.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, members. Good morning, Minister, HOD, colleagues. Anthony Hansler Rensburg, Government Public Transport. Good morning, Chairperson and members, Minister, HOD, and other staff members. Kenneth Boyson, I'm the Director for Strategic Management and also Acting CFO.
Morning, Chair. Morning, Minister, HOD and members. Bianca Hendricks, I'm the DD for Management Accounting, GMT.
Thank you, Chair. That's it from our side in the boardroom.
Thank you very much. Is there other officials that must introduce themselves? Go ahead, Mr. Krieger.
Chair, Honorable Ministers, the HOD Minister. My name is Christian Krieger. I'm the Deputy Director of Services.
I think we're going to continue. I see there's other people, officials on the platform. Did everybody do the introductions?
Morning, Chairperson and members. Minister, Viola Tunjalo, Head of Ministry.
Good morning, colleagues. Committee, my name is Mario Brown, Department of Mobility.
Good morning, Chairperson, Minister, HOD. Colleagues, my name is Elam Nogani. I'm the Community Liaison Officer to Minister Selego.
No, thank you very much. I think that's everybody. And like I said, welcome to Scopa this morning. I'm going to give the Minister and the HOD to do some opening remarks before we're going to do the presentation. But as we're well aware, when we had the department and the entity, there were some concerns, and resolutions then emanated from those concerns, procurement by other means, and that was one of the major ones, the department. And we've got a presentation, and then we will give, after the Minister and the HOD has done the introductions, then we will then do the presentation, and then we will then allow members to ask the questions. So, Minister, and thank you for the full house. Thank you for being here with the team. It's a huge team, and we are so grateful that you are here. But as I always say in Scopa, we are here to make sure that we do our oversight role, but also make sure that we improve where we see the shortcomings in departments, that we address those shortcomings. And I'm so glad you gave us quite a substantial document to go through. But before we go through the document, Minister, to you and the HOD, just to do some introductory remarks. Thank you very much.
Thank you once again, Chairperson, and to the honorable members. Firstly, Chair, I would just like to take this opportunity, a day before Women's Day, just to wish all the women of this province a happy Women's Day, and also to say that we appreciate the effort that they in their efforts in making sure that they grow the economy of our province, so that we continue creating jobs as the government of the Western Cape. And secondly, Chair, thank you very much for the opportunity to be able to present before you some of the issues that were raised before the existence of the Department of Mobility. As we all are aware that the Department of Mobility celebrated its second year in April this year. And some of the issues that the colleagues will be addressing today, come from the previous years before the existence of the Department of Mobility. But also, Chair, if one would, as soon as we announce the audit outcomes of this particular, of the previous financial year, you would see the kind of progress that we have made from the side of mobility, and to make sure that we are, we comply, and we make sure that the money that we use, which is the money of the public, is used where it's supposed to be used. And also, Chair, what I would appreciate is that I think it's important that the presentation that we have sent to you is to give you context in terms of the complexity that we are confronted with within the Department of Mobility, so that everybody have an understanding in terms of our environment, how we operate, and how we actually do our work to the best of our ability. With those few words, Chair, thank you very much, and I'm looking forward to engaging with you as Scopa, as it's our first appearance from the side of mobility to appear before you. Thank you very much. HOD, you can continue.
Thank you, Minister. Thank you, Chairperson, for the opportunity to give an introductory remark. So, although I've been there for just a few days, actually exactly 1 week today, I've realized that it is the Department of Mobility is actually a very huge department, which is very complex in terms of their strategic plans and how they're going to get the province moving efficiently, seamlessly, and affordably. So there's a lot of work that has been done. There's a lot of work that needs to be done, but I am confident that there is a very capable team, although very small, although thinly spread all over the place, but the team is very capable, and they've done what they could do with the resources that they have, and also in the infant stage where they are. Thank you.
No, thank you very much, and congratulations, HOD, on your appointment. From Scopa's side, we wish you all of the best, and you have a capable team. So thank you for even that opening remarks. There's a lot of challenges, but You are the appointed person, so all the confidence is in you to do what you need to do. So thank you, Minister and HOD, for the opening remarks. I'm now going to allow HOD, who's doing the presentation for us this morning. Thank you very much.
Chairperson, the presentation is going to be led by our Chief Director, Deirdre. And Deirdre, at some point regarding some of the slides, will then ask some of the directors to support her. But yeah, the team is there. Over to you, Chairperson. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Robina, over to you.
Good morning, Chairperson. First time you managed to pronounce my surname correctly. I will be leading the presentation, Chairperson, but I will be getting some help from our senior member of supply chain, Ms. Moodley, with a few slides. You correctly said that, let me first check if my presentation is visible.
Yes, it is. You may continue.
Thank you, Chair. Just in terms of your introductory remarks, Chair, you correct. The reason for the briefing today is as a result of the deliberations between the committee and the department on our 2023-24 annual report. The committee then resolved that there are 3 items where we need to brief the committee. The first is the limited and emergency bids that we used in the financial year under review. Also, the development and implementation of mechanisms or policies to reduce the need to use these deviations, and then a briefing by GMT on the potential impact that the strategic risks have identified in the annual report of 23-24. So just for ease of reference to the committee, this is in terms of pages 142 to 143 of the Western Cape Mobility Department's annual report, and pages 134 to 135 in terms of the GMT annual report. I will not read the resolutions. And then in terms of page 78 for GMT, this is where the strategic risks can be found, Chairperson. So just in terms of the unique nature of the department, we thought it's important to stress that, or to highlight that the department does have a broad mandate in terms of the National Land Transport Act. It is responsible for public transport planning, coordination, road traffic regulation and enforcement, licensing, and then we have GMT as well, the trading entity within the department. And we are also responsible for direct implementation to support municipalities who do not have sufficient capacity. Moving on, we do need to highlight that we are a very lean department, as the HOD has mentioned, and we have a really outdated organizational design that's more than 10 years old. This is really compounded by a very high vacancy rate at the moment. Just in terms of comparisons, what we've done is we've pulled comparative analysis of structures of other provinces. And we've done this in terms of the annual reports of 23-24 as well. So it's apple to apple comparison. With mobility, we have 1,822 approved berths. Just over 1,000 is dedicated to traffic management, and 744 is responsible for all other functions in the department. There's only 2 provinces that have similar mobility structures, and this is the Northern Cape and Northwest. Gauteng, Western Cape, and KZN are the top 3 provinces by economic contribution, yet Gauteng has double the approved positions, and KZN has more than 3,500 positions in comparison to the mobility department's just under 2,000. The tables on the right just gives a graphic representation of that. but maybe just to highlight that also we have significantly fewer directorates than other provinces, and one could almost suggest that we are, as a department, merely a branch if one looks at the structures and the level in terms of the OD where it's pitched in other provinces. Chair, then we have a 30.2% vacancy rate. This is only second to Gauteng. If we include traffic management, then we are by far the highest vacancy rate in the country in terms of the other provinces, in terms of a comparison to the other provinces. The majority of these vacancies, unfortunately, are also in the skilled production and supervisory roles. So that's from levels 9 to 12. So just with this in mind, we thought it important to explain the rationale for when one uses limited bids or emergency procurement. It really is in the context of requiring specialized technology. An example of this is the traffic system used called Enforce. It's a bespoke system that was designed specifically for traffic management and is used on the handheld devices. We can also do it in terms of systems or services which can only be sourced from a single supplier. An example of that would be the Drager machine that's used for alcohol breath testing. There's only one supplier in the country that is certified. And then in terms of specific safety standards for vehicles, an example of that would be the judges' vehicles that has certain requirements. And then in terms of benefiting from exceptionally below pricing, this is when we've tested the market, not necessarily found a competitive bid, but we do see from a competitive pricing perspective that there is lower costs, and we use that as the motivation or rationale around a single source supplier. And then to meet emergency needs, an example of that would be when we had the floods last year and we needed to relocate people to centers of safety, and we went out and used Golden Arrow, given the size and capacity of the mode, to move these people out of dangerous areas. Chair, I'm now going to hand over to Ms. Mouldy just to take us through the next 4 or 5 slides in terms of the limited bids done in the 23-24 financial year under discussion.
Chair and honourable members, thank you for the opportunity to address the matter regarding the use of limited bids. The department acknowledges Scopa's oversight role and wishes to confirm that in instances of limited bidding, where it was necessitated by specific operational, legal, or service continuity imperatives, each case was subjected to internal justification. By that I mean our bid adjudication committee. So what I've done in terms of the following slides is I've categorized it in terms of the limited bidding and conditions. I found 3 specific categories and categorized it in terms of legacy contracts, non-responsive markets, and emergency or specialized needs. So if we look at the first slide, I'll take you through, because there is a duplication over the pages. For example, the legacy contracts that we speak of is those in line with Travel with Flair, Lexline Press and AFSOL, and Amazon Web Services. By legacy, I mean that these were contracts that was initiated by the former Department of Transport and Public Works, and then the DOI, and under a management arrangement. These contracts were retained to ensure that there is continuity of service so that we can meet our mandate. In terms of non-responsive markets, we have 2 as well, which is for Top and NOS and LDS Communications. The department made extensive efforts to advertise the bid in terms of competitiveness, fairness, and transparency. These bids were advertised on the electronic procurement solution, which is the EPS, and in some instances, over 500 suppliers were invited. Unfortunately, in one of the matters, only 4 respondents, and they were all non-compliant. For emergency and special needs, we've categorized the SADLA appointments, the ILECO and the Blue Bay Lodge. The SADLA was appointed as an immediate conflict resolution service, and it was motivated under the emergency delegation, and that was in December 2023. The ILECO and Mabobo homes, these were contracted specifically by GMT, procured by GMT, to assist the Department of Social Development when no broader market existed for the unique specifications required. So there's a competitive pool and limited competition within that pool. The Blue Bay Lodge, this was under legacy contract by the Department of Infrastructure, and procurement was in terms of special needs. We do understand Scopus oversight, Chair, and our aim is to strengthen the procurement planning to minimize reliance on limited procedures. And what we've done to justify our actions since becoming a department, we have implemented an emergency limited bidding policy. And to date, we have not had any emergency applications. Thank you, Chair.
I'm just going to give over to Bianca. She's going to just deal with the GMT limited bids.
Thank you. GMT had a total of 24 limited bids, of which 23 limited bids were for the procurement of judges' vehicles. GMT utilizes limited bidding for the procurement of judges' vehicles due to the specialized requirements not accommodated on the RT57 transversal contract. The RT57 contract lists standard makes and models, and the required specifications for judges' vehicles are not available on this contract. Only a limited number of dealers are authorized and equipped to supply the required judges' vehicles. Competitive pricing is ensured by through quotations being obtained from eligible authorized suppliers, and a comparison is done to ensure value for money despite the limited pool. GMT also had a limited bid in terms of specialized services provided by Amazon Web Services. GMT procured the Intelligent Transport System, which is currently hosted on the Amazon Web Services and utilizes a range of AWS proprietary services. Limited bidding was used to appoint AWS because the Intelligent Transport System relies on the proprietary AWS services that cannot be replicated or migrated to other cloud providers without significant risk and cost. So procuring the AWS hosting through limited bidding ensured compatibility, continuity, and avoid operational disruption, as alternative providers cannot offer the specific service required by the ITS. Thank you.
Thank you, Bianca.
Okay. Chair, just to follow up on the mitigation strategy for the use and reliance on limited bid emergency bids. As I mentioned earlier, the Mobility Department is committed to strengthen procurement planning to minimize reliance on limited bidding where possible. We work closely with the Provincial Treasury to ensure alignment with good governance principles. We remain committed to upholding transparency, fairness, and value for money, and we welcome any further guidance from SCOFA in further strengthening our processes. So just in terms of the slide, we strengthen engagements and facilitation of supply chain management in terms of demand management with line functions in terms of the annual procurement planning phase. We incorporate industry and needs analysis market strategies for better understanding of potential market responses. We facilitate linkages between contract management and procurement management and procurement planning. The SCM unit will continue to maintain and distribute the contract register to all senior managers on a monthly basis, clearly highlighting key control dates and renewed deadlines. This is an ongoing mechanism that we do and we actually monitor per quarter. SCM will provide proactive support to program managers and ensure the timely initiation of competitive bidding processes to promote fair market competition and value for money, and limit the application of procurement by other means due to poor procurement planning. Strengthen compliance with requirements on the reasons for limited bid and emergency bidding. Currently, where limited bidding is selected as the appropriate procurement method, review and selected reasons for limited bidding to ensure documented evidence in terms of the PTI 5.4.4, and it ranges from A1, Roman numeral 1 to 5 during the procurement planning phase. We strengthen internal controls of emergency procurement in accordance with the PTIs, and as I mentioned, we have now implemented our emergency procurement policy. We train SEM officials and end users on the PFMA compliance, deviation protocols, and ethical procurement. Happy to report that we've also rolled out the ethical training in line with corruption and fraud intervention by the PFS. We promote a culture of accountability and transparency in procurement decisions, and we regularly engage national and provincial treasury in terms of our NTIs and PTIs for guidance on complex and recurring deviations. In a nutshell, we align departmental practices with SEM Instruction Number 3 of 2021, which emphasizes reducing abuse and enhancing transparency to ensure that we comply with our 5 pillars of procurement. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chairperson. I will now deal with the last part of the presentation. It's quite a few slides with extensive detail, and one needs to just remember or re-emphasize that we do operate in a fairly complex multimodal environment where there's lots of factors outside of the control of the department. And as a result, we've identified a set of strategic risks to delivery that could impact audit outcomes, but more importantly, operational performance. So the next section will deal with the impact of each of these risks, Chair, the contributing factors, as well as the control procedures and action plans for each. With your indulgence, I'm going to skip the next 2 slides as we deal with each of the 8 strategic risks in the tables. So if I may start with the first strategic risk in terms of unsustainable public transport services, I think we all experience the impact of an unsustainable service in that we do have worsening congestion. There is, and this results in limited access to economic opportunities and social opportunities. There is the resultant loss of productivity, compromised safety for all road users, as well as an increase in private vehicle use. So on the left-hand side, Chair, is what we call the contributing factor. So the failure to integrate land use planning and spatial planning with transport planning makes it for a very inefficient service. We need the kind of densities way above what we do have right now. The split between where people work and live compounds the costs and affordability of public transport. But what we do from a control perspective is we ensure that on a provincial level, there's alignment between the Provincial Spatial Development Framework as well as the Provincial Land Transport Framework. And this year we have finalized the Provincial Land Transport Framework. We've developed a provincial public transport strategy. We've also reviewed and assisted municipalities with their integrated transport plans, which are sector plans of the integrated development plans at local government level. Then I think every vote would say that there's limited funding for initiatives to improve public transport, walking and cycling. I think the fiscal environment has necessitated that we do things differently and look at alternative sources of funding, and this is exactly what the department has been doing. There is also lack of legislative clarity, but the department regularly engages with COTA, which is the Committee of Transport Officials, which is the primary policy committee on national legislation and policy. Chairperson, in terms of the fragmented institutional context, we do appreciate that across the 3 spheres of government, the different modalities are run at different spheres, which makes the management and integration of public transport much more complex, but we have established forums where we engage, such as the integrated planning committees at local government level, as well as the LTAB at local government level. We've also participate in municipal forums established either for transport or safety. Then from a transport safety and security perspective, we do appreciate that some of the controls may not be sufficient, but as a department, we are co-chairing the Transport Priority Committee, where issues directly resulting in risk to passengers are discussed. We also support the district safety forums that is now in place in every district. From threats to staff and assets, this is a challenge. We are looking at alternative ways of securing our staff in terms of traveling in GGs. We've also updated our security policy. We have employee wellness bespoke systems developed for the respective teams in the department. And then just in terms of inadequate provision for non-motorized transport policy, transport in the various local governments, what the department has now done is to develop municipalities to produce non-motorized transport strategies, and we assist with implementation thereof. Then in terms of illegal public transport operators, the impact is really around overtrading and route invasion, conflict and violence, extortion and criminality, and a decline in passenger safety and an aging fleet. Chairperson, we do many things to ensure that all these illegal operators are rooted out of the system. We've developed programs like the Shiloh Smart program, where we can in the future identify legal operators. We engage regularly in forums with the minibus taxi industry. There is standard operating procedures within the PRE. There's oversight with local government when it comes to moratoriums being placed at a local level. So there is much being done in the space and a lot more that still needs to be done. From an inefficient freight perspective, we can clearly see the volumes of trucks on our roads. We need to appreciate that as things stand, about 90% of commodities are moved via road. This is an untenable situation, so we're working with the entities responsible for the sector because the impact around congestion, and just the network and the impact on the road network and quality and the safety aspects needs to be managed in an integrated manner. So we have developed a freight data bank and demand model. So we have a good understanding of all commodities, origin and destination. We do have a freight strategy and implementation plan. We've developed coordinating committees with the ports committee. We've also developed a project management unit to unblock any issues around congestion within the port. In terms of road crashes and fatalities, happy to just report the 15.4% reduction in fatalities. This is as a result of the predictive analysis that's being used, different way of enforcement, deployment, integrated deployment with local authorities has seen this kind of a reduction. We also, from an integrated perspective, we are dealing with at least 5 districts where we are on their committees and we have presence in the triple Cs. And then from a revenue risk perspective, Chairperson, we have now developed memorandums of agreement and SLAs with each municipality. The municipalities retain 88% of the fees that is collected in terms of motor vehicle licensing, we expect 12% to be sent to the department. There are 1 or 2 municipalities that have challenges with their cash flow, but this is being resolved in this financial year. Then in terms of dependencies on suppliers, I think Ms. Moodley has done justice to this particular slide, so I won't necessarily go into detail on this one. Then from an internal control failure perspective, Chair, we have done a lot of work in terms of our standard operating procedures to make sure that there is definitely a division of responsibility in all our processes. Then from being effective and efficient or not being effective and efficient, the department has now started an organizational redesign process, and we are fairly confident that we will be able to develop a fit-for-purpose structure that is able to meet all the objectives set out in the department. Chairperson, then in terms of the last slide, the risks and its impact to future audits and operational outcomes, I think we have provided sufficient detail around the complex and multimodal environment that the department has to operate in. There are many interdependencies across transport modes and subsectors. Examples of our role players and stakeholders that we engage regularly as PRASA, the City of Cape Town, the minibus taxi industry, to name just a few. And we do this to ensure that we limit this to operational outcomes. And this is why we have quarterly meetings as well on the risk register, as just presented, Chairperson. We start from a zero base at the start of the year, and we re-look our risks in terms of relevance, the controls and action plans, and what that has achieved. Chairperson, and that was a mouthful, but that is the end of the presentation. Thank you very much.
No, thank you very much. That is a huge mouthful, and I'm sure the members have some questions, but I need to say thank you very much for the detailed presentation. Well done on the presentation. Maybe before I'm going to ask the members to ask some questions, just the one question I want to ask to kick us off is maybe the minister can maybe just give us an answer on this one. I am very concerned and alarmed about the vacancy rate. It's alarming that we do expect the department and the entity to do quite a bit. There is a lot that we've said now. There's so much, and the vacancy rate is it's a huge concern. And I don't know about restructuring and all of that to just adapt to the modern day where we are moving. So if I'm going to ask members to ask a question, but I just want the minister to give us some feedback on what is, the thinking of the department. The HOD is still very new, but that's why I'm just asking the minister. Of course, these talks, is in the corridors, and people know there's a high vacancy rate, and to meet all these challenges, we can put a lot of pressure on staff, but if you don't have the physical bodies there, you're in trouble. So, Minister, maybe just before we're going to ask the members, if we can just give us some feedback on that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, for that question, and I appreciate the question. And firstly, in terms of our senior management, we are in the process of appointing the chief director for traffic management, which I'm just waiting for the submission to come. We had interviews and the panel set, and we're just waiting for the submission to come to my table so that we can actually look at the recommendation and so that we can appoint. But for these two positions that we believe that it would be unfair that we appoint the CFO and the chief director GMT without having a HOD. Now that the HOD has been appointed since last week, we will be appointing the Chief Director, GMT, which is Government Motor Transport, and the CFO. So we also had a meeting in this week with the DG where we talked about the urgency and the importance of us trying to, to expedite the process of appointing all our senior management, so that the other position that filters under the CDs that can also be appointed, because we are really worried about the number of people that we are thinly stretched as a department, and whereas people are expecting us to do a lot. So we are actually focusing on that one, and with the appointment of the HOD is actually going to give us more stability so that we can appoint all our positions. I think that's the feedback that I can give to the chair and the committee, and assure them that we are actually looking at them at that, and we would want to appoint ASAP. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Minister. Members, any questions? Let me just see if I see any hands. I see Member van Minnen, Member van Minnen first, and then Member Pat Lekker. And after Member Pat Lekker, we have Member Leon van Wyk. So, Department, just note that we do ask the question. So we're going to ask Member van Minnen, Member Lekker, Member van Wyk. We're going to ask the 3 questions, and then we're going to then have the replies, and then we'll have a second round. Thank you, Member van Minnen. Over to you.
My hand is up,
Thank you very much. So we had the presentation, and we were talking about suppliers and the preferred list of suppliers, etc. What I'd like to know is who appoints the suppliers, who decides who the suppliers are. Is that done provincially or is that done nationally? And in terms of checking for competitive prices, who oversees that? And how do we know that it is genuinely competitive rather than necessarily fixed at a national level? Thank you very much.
Member Lekker.
Thank you, Chairperson. Good morning, everybody. Chair, a quick one before I move to the issues on limited bidding. I want to check. I missed the part where vacancies in the Department of Transport were mentioned. So my apologies for that, but can I get the information as to how many vacancies are there, and perhaps 1 or 2 categories where the vacancies are located? Let me then move, Chair, to the fact that I must really applaud the sentiment that vacancies need to be filled with speed to avoid problems that are there, visibly so. But I want to understand what are the time frames, because it's nice and easy to say we need to fill the vacancies. What are the time frames, and what are the anticipated delays that may exist, and how those delays probably can be avoided? Moving on to the limited bidding part, Chair. Indeed, I want to understand, Chair, because if you're looking at the limited bidding, Member van Minnen is correct to perhaps wanting an explanation as to who are those people who are appointing. But I want to get a sense, Chair, because if you're looking at limited bidding in its own nature, Chairperson, there's a great possibility that it can lead to higher prices, because perhaps these companies are very rare to find, or the skills are rare to find. So I want to understand what is there in place to limit the high prices being imposed on departments, and what is being done, because I heard from the presentation that at some point what was the word used? These companies, in essence, they particularly on the judge's vehicle, we were told that the costs are very low. So I want to understand exactly, in its nature, it can bring us to higher prices, and this one we're told the costs are low. Are they low compared to what? So I would really want to know if they are low compared to what? What has this been compared to if we do not get enough companies out there that are bidding? Then following that, Chair, there's an issue, Chair, particularly when it comes to alternative procurement. Now, when it comes to alternative procurement, what is it that we seem to be doing that attracts these kinds of procurement instead of the normal process of procurement that would follow under normal circumstances? And maybe the last one, Chair, would be in an event where the use of limited bidding disadvantages all other people that would want to render this service. Is it possible? Is it possible that we get a kind of real looking? Because most of the time we make use of limited bidding because of the conditions at that particular time, like your emergencies. So I'm asking, Chair, in that regard, we always know that there's gonna be disaster. We always know that there's this issue of judges. Judges are not going anywhere. They are here to stay. So what else can be done to avoid us going into limited building, because this process is recurring? You get to see it over and over. So it's not like something that gets to happen without anyone expecting it to happen. Then lastly, Chair, coming to the public transport. Indeed, the issue of integrated spatial planning becomes key in this regard. And I want to understand, in terms of addressing exactly that, ensuring that people are not working far away from their residential places. What are the plans instead of developing communities or including economies in the various communities that we are having? Because in some instances, you will find people traveling as far as Selorus Pass to Cape Town. So besides what is there, what else can be done to ensure that people are working closer to where they live? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. That was also a mouthful. Member Leon van Wyk.
Morning. Thank you, Chair. I think the nature of the work that the department appears to be doing does seem to move into that area where there are likely to be limited bids, and therefore I suppose it is really important to develop various systems and strategies and processes how one's going to deal with those type of situations. And I'm just thinking of the number of trucks and vehicles that we now have and that we're seeing on our roads, and particularly heavy trucks. There seem to be an increase on them. Are there efforts to increase the number of electronic surveillance type of systems for instance, the average speed over distance system that is used on some of the highways, because I would imagine that they could be expanded further. So I suppose that's the one aspect of it. And then the other aspect, just thinking of the efforts that need to be undertaken to try and move heavy vehicular transport, freight movement off our roads onto the rail system, and to try and find out the extent of progress that we are making there, and whether the various technologies that are going to be necessary to undertake that, in terms of finding the possible suppliers who could work in that environment. It's not likely to be many operators who have that necessary level of experience, and the entire complexity of putting that together, whether the department is getting involved in preparing for that, for instance, the loading and unloading of freight trains to make that a lot simpler. So yeah, just trying to see in terms of the work that has been done. Thank you, Chair.
I'm going to give Member Benjamin opportunity to ask his question. That will be the last for this round, and then I'll give a second round. Member Benjamin.
Thank you very much, Chair and MEC and the Executive. And I think I must also join those who have welcomed the report from the department. I must make the point that there is some degree of frankness on the report presented here. And such frankness may perhaps put the officials who've been crossfire with their political principles, because their level of frankness and kindness exposes some of the political statements made, or are not in line with what some have been saying in the provincial government. Particularly on the question of what one can describe as a chronic crisis of vacancies at a high level. And this, where I stand, dismisses the whole philosophy of the Premier, where you talk about doing more with less, and that you officials, I think, Chair, is a point which I think we should record, that officials are complaining about this liberal philosophy of doing more with less, and because they are overwhelmed. In the best interest of these workers, this matter must be expedited. And I think that the report, as we insisted, Chair, by the MEC, where I stand is not convincing, though he made a statement that, okay, now that there is an HOD, then, but importantly, I think out of this meeting, the department must be able to take us through on the roadmap towards the filling of these positions, vacant positions. And certainly, they're at a senior level. And also, having benchmarked with some of the provinces, what are you going to do? Because in the report, you make it clear that you do not have Deputy Director General. Yet, in provinces whose size of the economy are close to our side, KZN and Gauteng, they are such. And here there is none. So that roadmap is important, and that it be presented on a quarterly basis before the Standing Committee. On the contrary, and there appears to be a disjuncture, Chair, between what could be described as contextual analysis and mitigation strategy. In the mitigation strategy, there's no talk about addressing this phenomenon at all. Nowhere. Whether they talk about addressing the question of vacancies to ensure that at least they are able to operate. For instance, or as a third point, in line with bullet point 4, perhaps there, as a basis to ensure that this thing is done, there has to be quarterly update with the standing committee, on the procurement. The committee should be presented with this. And I think I must also pose the question, Chair, on the question of where is this? In the report, you talk about strengthening internal controls. And you are not elaborating as to what are those controls which requires to be strengthened. Does this suggest that currently there are no internal controls? That's what this may imply. And I think that the department ought to take us through on that one. What is it that you are going to do to respond into this particular crisis in this instance? Also, you talk about, as a mitigating strategy, that there's going to be training of officials. And that may equally imply that the current officials are not trained. Because I think mitigation strategies should not be developed for the sake. They must be meaningful. And that what is it that is quite important and novel that you are bringing to ensure that the problems lifted up are not actually recurring. Let me go to the question of limited bid or emergency. And there is a long list here of emergency bidding, stroke and limited bidding. And I think the department maybe could have clarified as what do they mean when they talk about emergency bidding, limited bidding. You understand as to why am I posing this question? Related to above, which provision of the procurement process, policy processes were bypassed? Because it would be important that it would be important for this community to have a sense of that. If any, does that not constitute irregular expenditure? Because if you look at the report, in respect to irregular expenditure is nil. Yet, I assume that certain procurement procedures were bypassed. And maybe unless we don't have shared the same definition in terms of good governance on irregular expenditure. Now, imagine there is one important case study here, which I made a snowball kind of process to identifying a service provider. And imagine a procurement of a billboard, safety billboards, advertisement. When was this done? What are the basis for this? And what was an emergence about the procuring of road safety billboards, advertisement? So, and why was this not in the APP in this instance? So I think the department ought to take us through, because there is a company called LS Communication. It was given this for advertisement. What was key about this advertisement? Where was it located? What constituted it? Now, who owns this company? And where is this company located? Now, I think it's important that there are areas where you can say, okay, maybe there was a crisis and the minibus taxi industry had to be assisted, right? Now, then procurement processes had to be bypassed and they constitute irregular, but it does not mean wasteful expenditure. But that there was a crisis. But on this one, how do you justify it? Because somewhere in the report, you talk about justifying internal justification. How do you justify this particular one? I'm not going to talk to some of the issues because they overlap with the next session we're going to have with the department. Let me pause there, Chair. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That's a lot. So I'm going to give the department opportunity to respond, and then we can have follow-ups after that. Quite a number of questions. So Minister HOD, over to you. You can then delegate whoever official is going to answer. But Minister, if you also want to make your comment, I'm leaving it over to you and your department. Thank you very much.
No, thank you, Chair. I think I will just start. I think there's a lot of emphasis made in terms of appointments, and it's almost like it's just a talk shop and there won't be anything happening. But I just want to assure the members that as much as there has not been any movement in terms of the senior management appointments, because there's a due processes and which we are not in control of, there has been appointments made below, and I think it will be important just that we give the members a list of appointments that have taken place, so that they can actually see that as much there has not been any appointments in terms of senior management, but the CDs have been doing appointments, below that they are responsible for, and I think it's important that the committee members also understands that, and also change in terms of the processes. I think the colleagues are going to get to the detail, because there are certain processes and procedures that in terms of legislation that has to follow when you have to go to certain bidding and for us to actually come to a particular decision whether someone will be able to be appointed. And the colleagues will also have to just speak to those specifics. I think that's what the question is. How did you come to appoint a particular service provider, not following due process? It can be perceived as not following due processes, but when you get to the detail and you get to the explanation per supplier, then at least the colleagues will be able to get a proper understanding in terms of that. And also from the side of what the member Van Wyk has been saying, and I appreciate what he's saying in terms of moving our trucks from road to rail. I think that's what we are saying as a department, that we are starting to understand the importance of making sure that we need to shift the balance in terms of the numbers. As Deirdre has said, that currently if one looks at the numbers, it will be 90 to 10, and want to reverse that particular number. And we are starting with overbill. There's a case study that we're undertaking from the side of mobility with Overberg, trying to look at opportunities of moving goods from Overberg, via rail, especially linking them to the Belcon, ultimately to the port of Cape Town. And that's one study, and if it's successful, and then we are able to go to other areas. So we are doing a lot in terms of making sure that we do actually change what is currently taking place in that regard. And I think, Chair, I will stop at that, and I'll give to Deirdre to respond to some of the the technical questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister. Through you, Chairperson, I'm going to just briefly touch on the vacancy issues. I think it was Member Lecker that requested information around vacancy rates. So in total, Member Lecker, we have 533 vacancies in the department. Of these vacancies, 28% is on salary levels 13 to 15. 23% is on salary levels 10 to 12, and the remainder is on salary level 2 to 9. So it's fairly concentrated in the middle management to top management, Member Lecker. I do want to raise that the DPSA process, where we needed to get approval by the Premier, has ceased to exist from 1 April, and that added at least 4 months to the recruitment process. So we should be speeding up recruitment and halving the time it's taken moving forward. Just that's an overall question that was raised around timeframes. So the average time frame now is 3.5 months for to fulfill the post. Then in terms of Member Van Lecker as well as Member Legenshu's questions around supply chain, I've asked Ms. Moodley to take us through when we use different types of procurement in terms of the PFMA and what is allowed. But before Ms. Moodley gets to that, I'm going to deal with some of the other questions, and Ms. Moodley can then end with the supply chain questions. Member Leko asked about, what are we doing about spatial planning from a departmental perspective? Member Leko, we make sure that ultimately spatial planning is directed with provincial framework. Each municipality then has a spatial development framework for their respective areas. We give extensive input and we collaborate with the Department of Environmental Affairs and Development Planning, and we integrate our transport framework with the spatial framework. We also give extensive input to the spatial development frameworks at local government level, because these are sector plans of the IDPs. So we do highlight the complexity that's going in from an affordability perspective when it comes to the sprawling nature of land use in the province. So that's how we control the voice around integration. And then when it comes to Member van Wyck's questions around freight, I think the Minister's done an excellent job in explaining what we've done. So we do have the freight demand model, and the freight data bank. So remember, we know exactly what commodities move where in our province and how they move. And unfortunately, as mentioned, 90% is still on the road. But Minister was correct when he said that we have done a freight rail revitalization framework. So that assesses all branch lines and its importance in relation to the province. So we will be doing a case study specifically in Overberg, as Minister has mentioned, to test that. We also do speak to the entities involved around the challenges faced when you have to move the commodity from truck to rail. There are many mechanisms in play when it comes to that shift, and it's quite expensive, member. So we do engage Transnet and the National Department of Transport now on all of these challenges. I think when it comes to the rest of the questions, they're all centered around supply chain. And I'm going to now hand over to Ms. Moodley to deal with that. Thanks, Trevor.
Thank you. So, Chair, some of these questions are quite overarching in terms of issues of concern. I will try and address them holistically and then break it down further. So Member van Meulen asked about the supplier's preferred listing. And then we go to Member Leko, who asked about the concern about the great possibility that it can lead to higher pricing and what is in place to limit higher pricing. I'll address that. Member van Wyk asked that it's important to develop various strategies and systems for procurement. I'll address that as well. And in terms of Member Benson's question, in terms of the emergency bidding, limited bidding, and what conditions were bypassed. So let me start with just firstly giving a broad overview in terms of supply chain and procurement processes with specific reference to thresholds. So in terms of SCM, we have two systems that are in place. The first one is for any procurement that is below 1 million. The department uses the electronic procurement solution, which is competitive process, and it is bids that's received are adjudicated in terms of a quotation adjudication committee. The delegated official then approves that procurement, and we issue letters of appointment in certain circumstances. We also enter into service level agreements determining the levels, milestones, and deliverables pertaining to that particular service For procurement value over 1 million, we do engage with competitive biddings, and that we use the system, the e-tender portal. For instances where there's limited bidding, in terms of PTI 5.4.4, there are 5 conditions, and the BAC, which is the Bid Adjudication Committee, is the adjudicating committee that makes a recommendation to the accounting officer. So to answer your question, Member Vermeulen, you want to know who is the delegated approving authority. It is indeed the accounting officer when it is instances of limited bid. And then the second question from Member Lecker, which is the possibility of higher pricing with specific reference to the judge's vehicles. So we must understand that most of the costs are regulated in terms of a transversal contract. However, when a judge wants a vehicle that is outside of the contract, it is most cost effective and economic to go directly to the dealer. So that's why in those instances, we have made procurement for judges' vehicles via limited bid. It's not a deviation as such because it's outside a transversal contract. And remember, at all instances, there's always an element in procurement negotiation. So one can negotiate as long as it is value for money, because often if you negotiate lower pricing, we sit with a problem where it could be lower value services. In terms of Member van Veeks, what are the important strategies that we have developed? So since inception of our department, we started in October 2023 as a department, and we were under management arrangement in terms of an accounting officer system and supply chain management delegations. In October 2024, we developed our very own set of supply chain management delegations. I will speak a little bit about this soon. Also in October, it was actually the 16th of August that we implemented a emergency policy and a standing operating procedure. On the 1st of April this year, we have signed and entered our very own accounting officer system, and that becomes the overarching strategy and procurement policy, which entails the composition of committees, due dates, deadlines, specifications, awards, adjudication. So it is quite a broad policy and extensive, and the supply chain management unit is currently rolling out awareness to all officials within the department. In terms of limited bidding, I just want to read an extract from our policy that would probably set the tone for further discussion. So in terms of limited policy, which is also embedded within our AOS as well as our delegations, emergency means a situation where immediate action is necessary in order to avoid an urgent, unforeseen, and dangerous situation that left unattended may lead to death, injury, disease, damage to property, infrastructure, or the environment, significant economic loss or disruption of life of the community. This is as defined in the Provincial Treasury Instructions of 2019. And we endorsed within our policy NB, urgent situations that are created through lack of planning or risk mitigation do not constitute an emergency. So we're very forthright in defining exactly what an emergency condition is. And to put it in context, the PTI issued an SCM Provincial Treasury Instruction in terms of the PTI as 2019, which promotes all pillars of procurement. So I can vouch that our procurement is done in fairness, without bias, transparent, value for money, and as economically as possible. And I think I've covered most of your points. Yes, there's one question regarding the billboard. So the billboard was not considered initially an emergency. There was forethought and planning. It was part of the festive campaign for the TLE. We did go out in the emergence on the electronic procurement solution twice. And as I explained earlier, 4 offers were received and they were non-responsive. So in terms of delegations, we are allowed to go on a limited bidding to those suppliers that submitted quotations. And that is a process that was followed through the boards. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I think we have covered all the questions of the members in round 1.
No, thank you very much. Thank you very much for that. I'm going to ask, is there any follow-up questions before we ask? Is there any follow-up questions, members? Clarity on the answers that were given. If I can just, there's Member Benson that's got a follow-up. Member Benson, go ahead.
Thank you very much. I don't recall hearing the officials responding to my question regarding the question of asset communication and a tender and the function which was declared as emergency. That's the first thing. The second thing, I don't recall also hearing them accounting about its ownership and location in this instance as a case study, as a basis to, one avoided to get to the broader list, but just that specific one, right? So that we can have an appreciation of what was presented and guided by the rationale in this instance. If they can't respond, then for me, it nullifies the whole process. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Member Benson. Member Pat Lecker.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I think at some point I wanted to understand what is being done to address issues where we would have anticipated what is going to happen, and therefore not find ourselves in a situation where we only look for a best possible solution. Maybe I did not make myself clear. There was mention here that sometimes when there are floods and people need to be relocated, the department makes use of golden arrow bus. And I think exactly at this stage, Chair, I want to highlight, because we did not get, maybe I did not understand, but I think what then becomes important points out exactly to one problem that limited bidding exposes. Because if you're talking of limited bidding, it's important that we also understand that there's an element of restriction. Restricting those who could offer competition or bring in different solutions to the problems that we are encouraging. And this is also the basis that at some point, instead of going for limited bidding, we must be deliberate and check for new suppliers. Because I still maintain limited bidding excludes other people who may come to the fore. And these people perhaps would even offer a unique solution. Is Golden Arrow the only transport means that can be used to relocate people from one point to another? Is there no other companies, bus companies, that could offer exactly the same solution? I'm raising this, Chair, because if we continue with a limited bidding approach, as a department, we are consciously excluding other people from offering solutions to the problems that we're encountering. Floods occur every now and again. Every winter, we anticipate that there's going to be floods. So I think I must make emphasis around this, because indeed, looking at it, it offers exclusion on the potential of getting new suppliers who can even offer unique solutions to our problems. That's one, Chair. Then the second follow-up, Chair, I also did not get timelines on the filling of these vacancies. So if at least, because I mentioned that I would want to know how many of these vacancies, but also what are the timelines in filling these vacancies. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, members. I'm going to allow the Minister, HOD and Department to respond on those follow-ups. Thank you very much.
Chairperson, I'll start. And I think it's important that I also share what Member Lecker is saying. And I think I'm in a safe space when I'm going to say this, because I'm regarded in the department as someone that hates limited bidding. And it's either because I'm very serious about transparency and making sure that when we do procurement, that there is no question asked. But also one is also cognizant to conditions that also dictates why one would also venture into that because of the complexity of that we have. But I think what is important is that during my opening remarks, I have said that some of the issues that we are addressing now has been issues that have been in existence before the existence of mobility. And from the side of the ministry going forward now, we are actually tracking all contracts that we have currently in our department so that we make sure that we don't find ourselves in the same situation as before the Department of Mobility was in existence. So I just want to assure the colleagues that when there's an opportunity for us to actually go out, we do have that. We will definitely undertake that opportunity so that there is transparency. And we actually, and the colleagues and the officials know how I feel about transparency and making sure that we are not that whatever we do, we do it and to the best of our ability. But there will be days and there will be situations where we will go out, but we won't find what we are looking for, and unfortunately, we will have to use other alternatives. So I just want to assure the colleagues that we are actually tracking. So those that are coming to an end, we know what we need to do. We need to plan. We need to be proactive so that we don't find ourselves, in the situation that we are currently accounting for now, as much as we are not in existence then. So I just wanted to assure the colleagues that we are looking at what was raised and we are putting measures in place. And like Ushoba was actually saying, we've instituted our own policy, and we can actually say that we did not have any limited bidding, since our existence. And also that I'm saying that the audit outcomes is also going to confirm and assure the members that we are actually, doing due diligence in terms of procurement, but all the concerns that is raised by the colleagues are the same concerns that we are at the department also looking at and saying, if there is an opportunity for us to go, and we need to go out so that we open the level field and make sure that everybody that wants to actually do business, but there will be those specifics, service providers that can actually give that particular one, but also it must be justifiable. Yeah, thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Minister. Through you, Chairperson. Member Nikeshu, my apologies if we weren't very clear around the billboard procurement. Shoba will touch on the other elements as well, but on slide 14, it's MLO B8. This is where Shoba was explaining that we had gone out on the EPS system twice and there was no supplier found. And because it was part of the December festive season traffic law enforcement operations in terms of road behavior, etc., or change behavior, we then elected to use a limited bidding process there. In terms of the timelines for filling of vacancies that Member Lekker's posed, Member Lecker, we've got over 500 vacancies. However, we are now at 3.5 months in terms of the time frame per vacancy and per recruitment process. So that's been reduced by half. It's down from about 8 months. So we can't give you the time frame to fill all 500. I doubt it will be this year, but we have reduced the timeline per recruitment process. I'm just going to ask Shoba to touch on the other question around that Member Lecker posed around the procurement, how we choose the procurement process.
Thank you. I'm just going to make a follow-up on Member, or a response on Member Benson. He spoke about locality as well. So in terms of the emergency bidding process that we followed or we used for MLB 08 and the appointment of LS Communications, as it is advised, it was advertised by Mobility Department twice. The first round, we had 2 bidders and they were non-responsive to the terms of reference. The second round, there were no bidders and a limited bid was initiated. So just to guide or to add more context, in terms of limited bidding, the PTIs clearly dictate that an accounting officer or an accounting authority may procure goods or services by means of limited bidding processes if a business case was clearly developed and indicates that limited bidding process is the appropriate form of procurement. And in this particular matter, for the emergency billboards, we invoked condition 554 and Roman numeral 3, which states that a competitive bidding process or invitation of quotations was initiated, but the bids received were all non-responsive or unaffordable at the time, and time is of essence. Just to put that into context, it was the festive period and time was definitely of essence. In such cases, re-invitation of bids can be limited to those suppliers who submitted quotes, and that's what we did in this case, which resulted in the appointment of LS Communications. In terms of member letter, what has been done in terms of procurement, emergency procurement? Unfortunately, matters such as floods is force majeure. It's beyond our control. It's an act of God. And we, however, do have an emergency policy, which I've read that it must be seen as a means to prevent misery, life, and death. And that was the case in this particular matter, where the citizens' lives were at risk due to flooding. Minister has actually encapsulated the department's stance on limited bidding in terms of our AOS, the applicable delegations, and going forward what our stance is on limited bid applications. I can quite confidently report that the first quarter we have not had any deviations. We've had 4 limited bids, and these were all for the procurement of judges' vehicles, which we've reasoned previously that it's outside of the transversal contract. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson. I think we've covered all the follow-up questions.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that. Can I just want to ask 2 questions. I don't know if there's any other questions, but if I can just ask 2 questions. The one question is, I know that, you know, when we talk about public transport, we're talking about an integrated approach with all spheres of government. But the question is, you know, and you spoke about, you know, when we look at the risk, the unsustainable public transport services, you know, and the shortages of quality, reliable public transport. Will we ever get to a place where, you know, we can be on the international level when it comes to public transport? You know, the roads is full of congestion of roads, road fatalities and accidents is all there. But I don't know if people have alternatives. When they get into their car, they're safer than getting into a train and getting into a taxi or getting into a bus. Will we ever get to a point where we say that, you know, people can clearly say, listen, I've got an alternative. I don't want to utilize my own transport. I want to get into public transport to get to work. Will we ever get to that? Maybe if we can just get answer on that. I mean, if you look in international standards, we're far behind when it comes to international standards, you know. And like I said, it's not just your responsibility, it's an integrated approach, but I'm just asking from your point of view, when you look at population is growing. We, in the days when I started to work, we did not have the My City, we did not have the Go George, we did not have the taxis. All we had was the rail services and Golden Arrow. And I understand the population, but we, you know, more buses and taxis on the roads and increases, you know, for road fatalities and accidents to occur. So just maybe just you've looked at all the risk and you look at how the plans to get there. But will we ever get to a point where a person will get up in the morning and say, I will use public transport because I feel safe and I will get to work on time. The second thing that I just want to ask, I think it's 2 months ago or something, when I drove down the N2, I saw the National Traffic Services. It's the first time I saw that. How do they fit into the equation? Because we know we have the city traffic services and provincial traffic services. Suddenly I saw National Traffic Services. It's the first time I saw that. I think I saw them once and never again. So how do they fit into the equation? Members, is there any other questions before I ask the department to answer that? I don't see any hands. Department, over to you.
Thank you, Chairperson, for those questions. Just really simply, I would like to say confidently, yes, we will get to a space where we have an integrated public transport service. In 2014, I think the rail service, which is the backbone, moved about 800,000 passengers a day. We're down to 100,000, and that's why we're feeling what we're feeling in the extended peak period. But that's just to show that Metro Rail, which is meant to be the mass mover of commuters, is able, and they do have the capacity. There is a period now of redress that's happening in terms of outdated infrastructure, signaling, etc. And we do believe that within the next 12 months, we don't necessarily want to speak on behalf of Metro Rail, but there's been really good positive shifts in the space. What we also have done is to do integrated transport planning with both the city as well as national, in terms of making sure that modes don't compete and complement each other. But we are not going to get away from road-based solutions if Metro Rail is not able to move the masses, Chairperson. We've gone a long way down the road in terms of alternative operating models. So to make sure that there's efficiency in the systems, I do believe we'll get back to moving where the split between public and private way higher to public. So I'm going to hand over to Mr. Van der Merwe to just speak to the National Traffic Services that you saw a few weeks ago.
Thank you, Mr. Benor. Chair, Minister, in terms of the National Traffic Police, Chairperson, that is a responsibility of the Road Traffic Management Corporation, so that is a national function. And they made available some of their resources for us during festive season and the Easter peak periods. So a total of 80 National Traffic Police officials were deployed in the Western Cape. And we ensured that the collaboration and the planning in terms of operations were managed by us as the province. So we incorporated the National Traffic Police with the City of Cape Town into a deployment plan specifically around the metro. So that previously there was no coordination in terms of the deployment of resources to provinces. So we made sure that we know exactly where they are. We got the leadership down here in terms of how we planned that, which resulted in we could identify specific needs in terms of hazardous locations. So specifically during nighttime, during festive season and Easter, then we could deploy them there, allowing us to take some of our resources further north on the N1 and N2 to assist there. And that resulted in 0 fatalities on the stretch from Three Sisters to Laingsburg and Aberdeen to Beaufort West during festive season, which was the first in since COVID that we managed to achieve that. There were no fatal crashes on that stretch. So that resources assisted us. And in terms of forward planning with regards to that, we fostered now a good relationship so that as soon as we can get some of those resources, but we ensure that that is in line with our plans. So it's not people just roaming around in the province without any specific purpose. The only challenge in terms of that is in terms of their jurisdiction, so they can just do certain limitations in terms of the enforcement, but in terms of the visibility, that assisted us largely in terms of changing road user behavior based on the visibility.
Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much. No, thank you very much. Just because when I was driving, it's good for visibility, but I was thinking to myself, if they should pull people off and people don't know them, people don't know that branding with all these fake, cars and stuff going around, it's just, it's very uncomfortable. You don't know what their roles and responsibilities are. I agree with the visibility, but like I said, I didn't see many. I saw one, I think, but it's just you drive and you are not sure if they should stop you and do whatever, because we know what is the powers of the local police. We know what's the powers of traffic services. But the powers, and so that for me was, I don't know if the other members also saw that. We all, and as long as there's coordination and so on, and assist with the province, that is what we ask for. But sometimes when it comes to powers and functions, a person is a bit concerned if they should pull you off, I don't know. I'm just throwing that out, and maybe if that should happen, that there should be maybe more public awareness around that, so that people are aware that when it's a legitimate traffic police service and not, with all these fake. There's so many security companies and stuff, and you wonder, what is their powers and the mandate. So thank you for that explanation, but maybe just more public awareness on that will assist the public. Thank you. Members, is there no more questions? If there's no more questions, I'm going to ask the Minister and the HUD to do concluding remarks, and then we will I see Member Benson Gensu's hands up. I'm going to give him an opportunity. And then after that, I will then give the Minister HUD opportunity to conclude, and then we will then stay behind for administrative reasons. Thank you very much. Member Benson Gensu, over to you.
Thank you very much, Chair. A crisis was presented before this committee by the department. Now, and a number of questions regarding timelines were raised, but even MEC could not respond to that as to when. Now, can this be linked with what was reported as an organizational redesign, which is currently under construction? And can the department in this meeting confirm to us as to when, therefore, are they going to present the organizational redesign to the Standing Committee for Mobility, and with timelines in respect to the filling of vacant positions? And that for me is quite important. Is it possible that when they do so, that they link it with their equity targets to ensure that in the process of filling these vacancies, attempts are made or efforts are put to address the question of equity, to transform at the department? Thank you very much. That's the only fundamental question, which I felt for me was quite important, because it was raised here sharply in the contextual analysis, and that there are critically missing components or divisions, such as deputy director generals, where in other parts they exist. And in the country, the department actually has the highest vacancy rate. And indeed, it will not be able to perform. And inevitable, the department will take the route of consultants at the decrement of bidding and in-house. Can the department, the MEC, respond to that in concrete terms? Because the MEC made similar undertakings in respect to vacancies last year, Because this matter last year in the committee, we raised it sharply. And also the male dominance in the department. Again, commitments they made. And the MEC has this harmonious kind of a tone, to calm us down, but lack in terms of action. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Member Benson. Two things I want to say. I'm going to give the Minister in his concluding remarks in the HOD to answer that. I am going to ask our procedural officer to write to the Standing Committee on Mobility because I'm very careful when it comes to, we're looking at, the strategic risks. And we thought because of the staff vacancy rate, it's got an impact on what we are asking. But when we go over to filling of staff vacancies and those things, it then falls under the domain of the Standing Committee. So we will do that. I'll ask the Minister HOD in the concluding remarks just to answer that. But we will then, from our side as Scopa, just send a letter to the Standing Committee on Mobility to take the matter further. Thank you very much. Minister HOD, over to you.
Chairperson, thank you very much, and to the honourable members. And in terms of time frame, the processes of filling of vacancies is not entirely dependent on us. And I'll just give you a typical example just to respond to Member Anwenso. The first time we advertised, a recommendation came, and I was not comfortable with the recommendation, and I took a decision that we have to re-advertise. Because there's a lot of things that one has to consider before one appoints, and so it's difficult for me to say, within the next 2 or 3 months we are going to be able to appoint, because there's a lot of things that one have to consider. Because Mr. Honourable Menzo also raised the issue of transformation, and also, those are the kind of things, and fit for purpose, one have to consider those issues. And it's not an easy one, but in terms of the organizational redesign, people talk about 12 to 18 months, that's the process for the whole process, to conclude. But, from our side, I think what is important is that I just spoke to the HOD saying that, some of the critical positions that have been budgeted for, that we need to advertise, we need to have a time frame and have implementation plan so that we can share with the committee, so that we are seen not to be having a beautiful tone or a soft tone, but we are not serious. Because I need to really to assure the committee members that, and the chair, we are really serious about making sure that we actually appoint people that are fit for purpose, but also making sure that we everybody is given an opportunity who qualifies to actually to be appointed. But in my as I conclude, Chairperson, thank you very much for the opportunity, and to the honourable members for the questions that were posed, and for some of the concerns. And we really appreciate the manner in how we were able to engage and deliberate in some of these issues. But I want to assure the committee that we are really serious of making sure that the issue that we're confronted with, we are able to attend to, and we don't look at the challenges as a department, we look at the work at hand. And hence I'm saying that regardless of what we are going through as a department, we just make sure that we do our job to the best of our ability, and the colleagues are doing their utmost best, and I want to appreciate them for the work that they have done thus far. And also, from the side of what we are raising, Chairperson, we will ever one day find an integrated public transport system. And I must concur with what Deirdre has been saying. That is our vision, that is our belief, and hence we are doing everything in our power to make sure that we deal with the element of safety within public transport. Once we are able to deal with that one, then everyone will be able to say, instead of using my Porsche to work, I am going to get into any mode of public transport. And that's our vision, that's our ultimate goal. And also going forward, hopefully, in the near future, we will be able to demonstrate, to say we were able to succeed in making sure that we got, you know, a singular ticketing system within the space of mobility in our province. Those are the kind of things that we are currently looking at, and we are piloting, and we are trying to make sure that, you know, instead of people competing with one another within the, you know, public transport space, that they complement one another, and making sure that, you know, rail becomes the backbone of public transport, and there's a first line feeder and the last mile feeder. And those are the kind of issues that we are deliberating on within the space of mobility in the department and the officials. But we will need, you know, every player within the ecosystem of mobility to actually play, you know, to contribute to that, and also assist us in making sure that we do actually integrate, and people can actually see, you know, visualize and the vision of a, you know, integrated public system, you know. And those are my last concluding remarks, Chair. Thank you very much once more for the invitation. It's highly appreciated.
Well, thank you very much for Minister HOD and the officials for the presentation and answering the questions. Thank you very much, and enjoy your day. You may be excused. The committee will stay behind. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, members. Thank you very much for that. We're just going to do the minutes of the 20th, and I see I've got Q1 activities report and annual activities report. So I'm going to hand over to our procedural officer, Mr. Davids. Over to you.
Honorable Chairperson. Chair, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Thank you very much, Chair. Chair, this is just the minutes of Friday, the 20th of June, Chairperson. The last meeting that the committee had with the Western Cape Department of Education, Chairperson. All the members were properly constituted at the meeting, Chair, and there were one alternate member, and as well there were 2 additional members in the meeting, Chairperson, which were noted, Chair. Chair, then basically with the content of the minutes, Chair, is just an indication, an executive summary, Chair, on what the committee was briefed on, Chairperson. And then as well, Chairperson, there were some resolutions and actions, Chairperson, that the committee made, Chairpersons. And upon the acceptance of this minutes, Chairperson, will be communicated to the department for further actioning and feedback to the committee, Chairperson.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Is there a proposer seconder for the minutes? Okay, I've got it. It's member Johnson first, and then member van Minnen second, and the third and fourth place is not mentioned. Thank you very much.
Not a problem, Chair. I will go straight to the annual activities report, Chair. Can you see the report?
Yes, you can. Yes, continue.
Lovely, Chair. Thank you, Chair. This is just a overview, Chair, of what the committee has done for the 2024-25 financial year, Chairperson, under review. The committee members are noted, Chairperson, as well as the alternate members, Chair, to this committee. And then basically, Chair, this report kicks off with what the mandate is of the Public Accounts Committee, according to Standing Rule 101 of the WCPP, Chair, including all of the departments, all the departments reports to this committee, Chairperson, as well as all of the entities. Chair, for the financial year under review, Chairperson, the committee held 80 meetings, Chairperson, in total, and the committee attended 1 conference, Chair, which is the SATCOPAC conference in Zimbabwe, Chairperson. Chairperson, then basically, Chairperson, this report is basically, it captures each quarter the meetings that were held, Chairperson. quarter by quarter, Chairperson, which comprises of the 18 meetings, Chairperson. And Chair, of the 18 meetings, there were 13 meetings that pertain to the annual report session, Chair, that was held from the 7th to the 31st of October 2024, Chairperson. And where the 13 departments engaged with the committee on the annual report, Chairperson. And then as well in February, there was also some meetings, Chairperson. And then just in conclusion, Chairperson, there was that SATCOPAC conference, Chairperson, that the committee attended. Chair, the committee had no legislation during the financial year that he dealt with, Chairperson. And in terms of the public participation, Chairperson, all 18 meetings are streamed on YouTube, Chairperson. And the committee does engage with any individual or any stakeholder that requests to engage with the Chairperson. Chair, for the financial year under review, the committee was allocated an annual budget of 94,676, Chair, of which only 57,925 was spent, Chairperson, which left the budget, which left the committee with an under expenditure of 36,751, Chairperson. So that is regarding the annual activities report of the Public Accounts Committee, Chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Davids. So we had quite a number of meetings, and so that is the report, the activities report. Can I have a proposer seconder for this activities report, members? Member Van Wyk?
Yes, Chair, I will propose.
Thank you, and Member Van Binnen second that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chairperson, for that.
Sorry, Chair, can I ask? Because I didn't want to raise my. It will be like,
no, you can. You can.
No, it will have been confused as if I'm doing the second or third support. Just matters are arising. What is because you just mentioned about the SATCOPAC. Can we get an indication when will be the next SATCOPAC, and also probably even the South African one? Because it's difficult to do the planning, not knowing whether it's when it will be. Thank you very much.
Yeah, we'll do that now. We have those dates, and I think we have that on the. We don't have that, but we're going to mention that right now. Mr. Davids, yeah, just continue, and then we're going to address Member Mombo's question. Quarterly report, continue.
Yes, thank you, Chairperson. So this is our first quarterly report, Chairperson, for the first quarter of this year, Chairperson. Once again, the membership has been noted, Chairperson, as well, Chairperson, as with the annual activities report that you have seen, the mandate of the committee, Chairperson, and the entities that reports to a Chairperson, Chair. There was 5 meetings that was held during the quarter, the first quarter of this financial year, between April and June, Chairperson, the 23rd of April 2023, the 7th of May, Chairperson, with the Department of Health and Wellness, the 14th of May, Chairperson, with the Department of Social Development, the 21st of May with the Department of Infrastructure, and the 20th of June, Chairperson, with the Department of Education. Chair, you will see here it says no, Chairperson. The reason for that is that the minutes have just been has just been considered and adopted by the committee. So this no will then be effectively changed after this meeting to a yes, Chairperson. The committee did adopt the minutes of this meeting has been adopted, Chairperson. Chairperson, from the table of attendance, Chairperson, all of the members, all of the meetings were fully constituted, Chairperson. We can see as well, Chairperson, and then from the alternate members, Chairperson, the attendance have been noted in between the meetings, Chairperson, of the 5 meetings that we had, Chairperson. Chairperson, then there were no meetings that were postponed or cancelled, Chair. NCOP legislation, nothing. We had no legislation. Oversight visit, nothing, Chairperson. We had no inter-provincial visits as well, Chairperson. International Study Tours and Visit Chairperson. There weren't Chairperson. This is heading 14 Chair is different from the conferences that the committee attends, Chairperson. So there weren't any self-initiated, committee-initiated study tours or visits that the committee initiated to go and do do a study visit to another legislature, to another country from out of its own resolutions, Chairperson. Chairpersons, the invitations, Chair, there was only one meeting, Chair, which was a SAPAC EXCO meeting, Chair, on the 30th of May, which you attended, Chairperson. There were no costs involved, Chairperson, because it was a virtual meeting, Chair. And then, Chairperson, for this year, the committee was allocated a budget of 186,111. So far, Chairperson, only 5,376 was spent, Chairperson, and that leaves the committee still with a budget of 180,735 Rand, Chair.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that. As we said also, when we have these SAC-COPAC visits, that we don't take it from our budget, but that comes from a pool budget. So that's why it will not reflect in this. Can I have a proposal and a seconder for this, please? Can I have a proposal and seconder for the annual activities? Member van Binnen and member?
Leon van Wyk will second.
Member Leon van Wyk will second. Thank you very much, Mr. Davids. Can we just put up the dates that was given to us? Do you have it with you, the dates, Mr. Davids?
Chairperson, yes, I do have the dates with me, Chair. Unfortunately, I cannot screen it, Chair. Chairperson, the members of the Public Accounts Committee has individually requested dates, Chairperson, and I followed up with the SAPAC, because we as SAPAC, as the South African Association of Public Accounts Committees, we deal, or our secretariat in Mpumalanga deals with the SAPAC secretariat in Tanzania, the SAT-COPAC secretariat in Tanzania, Chairperson. So I've done quite a few follow-ups with our secretariat here in South Africa, Chair. And Chair, the dates that we have received, Chairperson, I have sent it to some of the to all of the Public Accounts Committee members, Chairperson. This is what we received via WhatsApp, Chair, that it will happen the last week, Chairperson, of October. So that's the last week of October. Let me just get the exact dates for the committee, Chair. It will be from the 27th, the Monday, the 27th of October, till the 31st, Friday, the 31st of October, Chair. But, Chair, there's a challenge for the committee, Chair, unless the committee can perhaps engage with the Chief Whip, Chair, on this matter, that normally this will be the last week that the committee engages with the departments on their annual activities report. So normally, Chair, if a person look at the dates, Chairperson, normally the annual report season for the Public Accounts Committee starts the second week of October, which will be from the 6th, Chair. This is only anticipated from the 6th of October, Chair, and then it will normally end on the 31st of October, Chairperson. So herein lies the problem, Chairperson. How the committee will engage on this matter, taking it forward. Will the committee attend this conference, Chair, or will the committee forego the conference and rather finalize the annual report season, Chairperson? But Chair, that is a discussion between the committee members and yourself, Chair, to perhaps be taken up with the Chief Whip, because the Chief Whip is the coordinating authority of the annual report, Chairperson, with the different ministers and the HODs in the Western Cape, Chairperson, for this annual activity, for the annual report season, Chairperson.
Thank you very much. At least we have the dates, and that is what member will ask. So we will then, liaise and have a discussion on this. Maybe at our next meeting we can. I've just seen Mr. Davids, you contacted me just to ask me if we can give the 22nd of August the slot. Can you just show that meeting for the 22nd of August cancelled? Can you just elaborate on that quickly, Mr. David?
Yes, Chairperson. Chairperson, normally what happens, Chair, Fridays have been allocated now to the Public Accounts Committee and to the Budget Committee, Chairperson. So we have alternated Chairperson since June, Chairperson, going forward. So 1 week it will be the Public Accounts Committee, 1 week it will be Budget Committee Chair. But Chairperson, for the 22nd of August, Chair, the Financial and Fiscal Commission wrote to the Speaker to ask if they can urgently just basically meet with the budget committees of WCPP, Chairperson, regarding the 2025-26 Chair Division of Revenue Bill, Chairperson, because they need inputs from the various legislatures. And the Speaker forwarded the letter to the Chairperson, and the Chief Whip was consulted, Chair, and then it was decided and requested if the Public Accounts Committee can basically give up their meeting slot for the 22nd of August, Chair, and if the Budget Committee can then engage with the FFC on their urgent request to engage with the FFC on the upcoming Division of Revenue Bill, Chairperson. So that means, Chair, that all of our meetings will then move to September, Chair. So most of our Fridays, if you look at the updated parliamentary program, which has been released, Chairperson, in the week, most of the Fridays have been blocked out for the Public Accounts Committee due to the Budget Committee sitting basically for all of the Fridays for this month, Chair.
No, thank you, Mr. Davids. I just wanted to you to elaborate on that, because I was contacted and communicated, and I said that is more important, so we can forgo the 22nd, so that the members just understand. Sometimes we have those type of emergency meetings, and I then decided that we will give it to the Fiscal Commission, and then that's why we've moved some of our dates to September. So members, I hope you understand that, and that we're all on the same page. Is there anything else, Mr. Davids? I think that is what it is. Is there any resolutions from our meeting, any documentation that the members want, anything? Did you record anything, Mr. Davids?
Yes, Chairperson, through you. Chairperson, I've recorded from Member Lecker the vacancy rates, Chairperson, including the timeframes and the anticipated delays, including the list of appointments. This is now with regards to the vacancy rates, Chair. You have also noted, I've noted, Chair, that you've also expressed your concern about the vacancy rate within the department, Chairperson. However, Chairperson, I've noted this of Member Lecker for a request for further information, but Member Benson, Chairperson, also raised this issue, Chair, and Member Benson then requested that the Standing Committee on Mobility deals with this issue, Chairperson, and that the Standing Committee be briefed on a quarter-by-quarter basis on how the vacancy rate will be filled, Chairperson, including all of the associated anticipated timeframes and delays or challenges with regards to that activity, Chairperson. And Chairperson, yes, then I've got again, Chairperson, where Member Benson again requested that this matter be brought in front of the Standing Committee on Mobility, Chairperson. Member Benson is correct. You yourself, Chairperson, you have indicated that we will direct a letter to the Standing Committee on Mobility that they take over this issue, Chair. This is within the standing rules, Chair. The powers given to the Public Accounts Committee that matters can be referred on policy issues such as this, Chair, a policy issue, which you also have raised quite correctly, Chairperson, can be forwarded to the Standing Committee, Chairperson, to further engage and then perhaps just give the committee a feedback at the end of the financial year, perhaps the end of March next year, just a feedback to the committee on how that standing committee has dealt with the issue, Chairperson, the meetings they had, maybe just supply us with their minutes, Chair, so that we can just, from our tracking document, Chair, just indicate that the matter has dealt with, Chairperson. So you are quite correct in advising the committee and directing myself to just to draft a letter to the standing committee chairperson to take this matter forward.
Thank you very much. So, Mr. Davids, I'm going to give Member Benson an opportunity just to also ask you if that presentation is done to the standing committee, that members that's interested, that's not on that committee, can maybe attend that standing committee when they deal with that matter. If you can maybe just coordinate with the procedure officer of mobility, that those members that want to attend off scope that's not on mobility can then attend. Member Benson?
No, thank you very much, Chair. I agree with the issues raised which have been identified by Mr. Davids, but I want to add two. One is related to this call for the presentation of the roadmap towards the filling of vacant post, is the issue of organizational redesign. The department reported that they are currently busy with organizational redesign. Now, that essentially means that the two should be served with the committee at the same together. That's the first point. And the link to it also relate to the question of, as a very critical component, equity targets. The final point, Chair, which also I raised this particular point, that the department should, on a quarterly basis, present the procurement plan before the standing committee. Thank you very much.
I'm gonna, like I said, when it comes to, now I'm with you, when it comes to organizational planning and when it comes to the filling of those vacancies, it falls in the domain of the standing committee. And so like I said, if some of the members want to attend the standing committee on mobility, when it comes to this, it's in order. But the main thing for me, as we pointed out in the annual reports, was what measures, mitigation strategy did they use, and what did they rely on when it comes to limited bidding and those type of things. So we look at the section when it comes to emerging risks, and that is what we want to address. So I think they've done very well in answering. We all did mention the concern about the vacancy rate of 32%. But as I said, redesign of the organogram and those type of things mainly falls with the department, and they report to the standing committee on mobility. Thank you very much, members. I think that's it. I think we are done. Thank you and enjoy your day. Thank you for attending your time, Member Basil Petrus. Sorry, I did not acknowledge you. You came in a bit later, but thank you for attending, members. Enjoy your weekend and God bless. Bye-bye.